Tell us more about vertical farming, because on our another episode we were talking to the wonderful JC, which happens to be one of your friends, and I've just fallen in heart with JC because he's got a fantastic speaking voice.
Yeah, it does.
So it's incredible, and so do you actually. So I did say to JC, if you want to be a voiceover artist or any of my films, it's incredibly smooth and velvety. It's like Jack Daniel's whiskey poured over hot chocolate fudge cake. But very visual. What's the concept of the vertical farm, and why did you get into it?
JC taught me most of what I know about vertical farming, so you went straight to the source, so that's a good thing. Vertical farming, I think, is going to be an incredibly important part of our environmental stability going forward. We really have the ability to grow most things almost anywhere on the planet. And so, for instance, right here in the United States, most of our produce is grown in California.
Yeah.
And then shipped around the country. And so here in Colorado, my lettuce is usually traveled like 1,500 miles. It's less healthy, 1,000 miles, 1,000 miles.
Ooh.
It's less healthy for me because it's, by the time I'm eating it, it's up to 6 weeks old. It's,
wow.
Yeah, and they lose, most leafy greens lose 50% of their nutrients in the first 7 days after being picked.
Mm-hmm.
So at 6 weeks, how nutrient dense is it? Probably not all that much. And then you can use a lot less water. So, we have a lot of problems with water on this planet. I think it was Cape Town that ran out of water a couple of years ago. And so I think this is going to be one of the really big business and environmental changes that we're going to make, because we can grow, you guys are in the middle of London, right? You can grow all of London's produce in London using LEDs and using vertical farming. And so you're getting healthier food. It's better for the environment because it's not traveling. And that also depends on what energy source you're using. So let's also acknowledge that if you're using coal plants to power your LEDs, probably not as good environmentally as if you're using solar. But I really think it's going to change the way things go. The problem right now with vertical farming is that it hasn't really been done profitably at scale. And I think part of that problem is that companies are going, hey, let's essentially recreate what's been done in the Midwest of the United States indoors. So let's build these massive farms, and then we'll try and do it for a whole city, where I don't know that's actually the best model. You see where you have smaller farms, you can still have big farms, but smaller farms that are actually doing really well, selling directly to consumers, selling directly to grocery stores rather than going through a bunch of distributors. And they're actually financially doing well. And so I think when somebody figures out a profitable model, and I think COVID will have had a big impact on this, I think more and more people that I see here are going directly to farms or directly to co-ops. I think there's some huge opportunity in the food space right now.
Good. Yeah, because there's talk of food shortages and people running out of food. But I think could there also be an argument that you're eating for the season, so you're eating for what's available, and not taking the pressure off things that trying to force them to, well, I guess you can grow anything, but obviously when you're importing food, from different countries. It's pressure on farmers having to grow produce for a particular market, whereas people are now going to eat more seasonally and locally.
Yeah, I don't know how that one's going to end up. That's going to be interesting to watch. Are we going to get to a place where we're growing almost everything hydroponically? Maybe we do. I don't know, but that's a very good point, because here in the U.S., I think it was 3 years ago, for the first time in history, we imported more than 50% of our fruit.
Oh
wow! Yeah, which is huge. I mean, in 1976, I want to say we imported around 5%, and then a couple of years ago, it hit 51%.
That is a lot.
Yeah. So.
And so the price goes up as well.
Well, actually, that's an interesting point, is that prices have actually gone down.
Okay.
So I'm trying to remember, I lectured at University of Colorado on this about a month ago. I'm trying to remember the exact figures, but I believe it was in the 70s, people spent 19% of their wages on food. Now, currently, people are spending, I think, between 8 and 10% of their wages on food, which actually has created a problem, because we're wanting healthier food and we want it to be cheaper. And to grow either hydroponically or with regenerative farming techniques, your food is not going to be cheaper than the tomatoes that somebody grew in California, massive field. They throw away half of them, and the rest they ship to you and you eat 6 months from now. You can't beat that pricing, but it's bad. It's unhealthy for the consumers. It's unhealthy for the planet. So I actually think food pricing actually needs to go up a little bit. Would be my argument. People need to be willing to pay a little bit more for healthy food.
Are there any theories to combat the waste? Because I've seen reports that producers are throwing away lots and lots of good food because they can't ship it out, or it's just problems with importing things. What are the ideas for combating food waste, if there's any?
There are whole companies started on that. I think we could reduce a lot of it with 2 easy fixes. If we're growing in closer where it's being consumed. So there's a little bit of a movement here that's starting in, I think, California, where people are saying let's eat food that's grown within 50 miles of where, or consumed within 50 miles of where it's grown. And I think that would be a huge change. And then also, I think as consumers, we want like the perfect looking tomato. And we want the perfect looking orange. It's same in color all the way around, these kinds of things. It's the right shape. It looks like it's a perfect, cylinder, whatever shape it is. But those tomatoes don't taste good. If you eat an heirloom tomato that's wonky looking, the colors are different all around, it actually tastes way better. And I think we've got to get away from this idea of my food's supposed to look a certain way and get back to a place of my food should be of a certain quality and taste a certain way. And I think that would solve a lot of those problems, because I think a lot of that waste stems from people going like, oh, this one doesn't look right. And so they toss it. And that would be a huge change for us as consumers.
Where's that phenomenon come from, that food has to look a certain way? Because I saw a program, it was a really interesting program, on the NHK World, International Japanese news channel, and they were talking about food perfection, and they followed a story about mangoes. There's producers in Japan that grow very big, beautiful purplish mangoes. It's all hand reared, and I think some are original mangoes from Japan, but the majority of the mangoes are American produce. But the Japanese ones, I think they're about $20 a pound. It's really expensive, and they're giving us food gifts. But what happens is, with the Japanese art of ritual and perfection, they look at it for any blemishes, and people want to give those as gifts. Where has that my food has to look unblemished, where's that psychological, is that part of our society of not, selfies and, taking pictures of our food.
I would imagine, I am not a psychologist, but I would imagine that does play a role in that. We tend to look at the exterior of things and want to see and place more importance on that than what, we do this with people. We look, how do they look rather than what's on the inside. And there is, beauty is a wonderful thing in the world. That's, it's a very real and very wonderful thing. And we shouldn't discount that. We're talking about art earlier. That's incredibly important. Art is important.
Yeah.
But substance is also important. And when it comes to things like friendships, food, what's on the inside matters a lot more.
Yeah.
So nutrient-dense food that's, not months old and been grown in good soil and things like that are good solutions hydroponically is really important. And just to give you, you probably discussed this with JC, but in the United States, leafy greens are usually 6 weeks old when we eat them. Tomatoes up to 6 months old.
Oh, wow.
Guess how old apples are by the time we get them here in the States?
Oh, I want to say a year.
I'm trying to think.
A year.
Oh.
Yeah. And so, they're not
Do
nutrient.
they spray them? How do they make them look? They must spray them, doesn't
Waxing,
spray them and they keep them. They essentially put them to sleep. And so, and it's that's not healthy for us as consumers. It's not. How much energy and electricity are we using to keep those things asleep for a year? That's not a healthy food system.
That's Frankenfood. So that's putting food to sleep.
Yeah.
Gosh, that's scary. I've got an organic apple tree outside. I'm going to pick them and make apple pie. That's scary.
Yeah.
Oh no! So you can't even imagine the impact, the relationship that dormant, sleepy, slumbery food has on your body because. We don't know. We don't know. But I would guess that you see a lot of problems here in the United States. You see a lot. Obesity is a huge problem here. Anxiety and depression, which there's a lot of studies coming out saying that's now connected to the gut biome. And so our food probably plays a huge role in a lot of our problems.